Wog! Yes, it is ORKTOBER. Yes, it is the day of the fist. And what does that mean? Well, today is the day, October 6th. It takes 5 days to get to this point. What does that mean? Well, if you saw my Instagram story, you'd see that the day of the fist is upon us. And what that means that today is the day that celebrates Mork making a fist so tight and so hard. And it took him 5 days, 1 day for each finger. And on the 6th day, although orcs just call it the day of the fist because orcs can't count past 5 anyways. Not unless they have a few of their buddies around, but generally it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots. On the 6th day, he took that fist and he wound it up and he BAM! Knocked Gork right out. And from that point, for a time, all orcs were cunningly brutal only. And they descended on each other in a giant mob of violence and woggin'. And there was good crumpin' to be had. And thus was born the Day of the Fist. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Eternal Chronicles. It's Christian here. We're doing another day of ORKTOBER. And I'm going to get into doing some painting in a bit. I'm going to paint some... I did some prep work on Orc Boys. One Piece, Space Orc Raider, early Rogue Trader era Orc Boys. So I did base coats on a great deal of them. This is just to get my rank and file. Boys with bolters. Got to get the boys with bolters done. So just working on the rank and file of them and getting some base coats on them, doing some washes on some of them. I've got 2 sets of them that are prepared at different stages. So you'll get to see one stage, and then you'll get to see after that stage, I'll be able to immediately move into the next stage on the other guys that are all sort of down populating my desk right now, which I'm not going to show you right just yet. Because as it is Day of the Fist, I wish to celebrate, and I thought we would look at some of my Iron Jaws. So this is my Age of Sigmar Iron Jaw army, painted in, I want to say 2017, most of it was 2017, but I think I did it actually over the holidays of 2017, 2018. So that was when the majority was painting. You can see my Ardboys there. I got like 20 of them. And the points fluctuated much. I roughly had about 2,500 points. But I was able to squeeze most of it into 2,000. Obviously, the Mega Boss on the Maw Crusher puts you way over. But if I take just my boys on foot, there's he is there. If I take just the boys on foot, I could easily squeeze it into 2,000. And even add that giant in, and you'll see some trogs at some point that I was able to insert into the army as well. I loved painting this army. It was not what I was planning to do for Age of Sigmar, but lo and behold, I wind up painting orcs for Age of Sigmar. Who'd have thought, right? Originally, I was going to do Chaos. And then I think I frittered around with some other ideas. I kind of lost interest in Age of Sigmar. Nico and I split the core box. He took the Stormcast. I took the Khorne guys. Started to work on the Khorne guys. Kind of lost interest in the Khorne guys. And this is before Iron Jaws even came out. When the Iron Jaws did come out, I stayed away because I wasn't into Age of Sigmar at the time. I'm trying to remember what I was playing generally. Probably a lot of skirmishy stuff. Probably a lot of Osprey skirmish, things like Ronin, things like, what's the swashbuckling one? Ungard. So like Nico and I were like just middling with like historicals and those Osprey games, and so we were kind of doing that stuff. Probably played a bit of Infinity around that time. But then I heard the call of the Wa, and I was drawn back to Iron Jaws, so I picked up the big army deal, which is you got the giant in that, because this was before there were really models out for, actually all the models out for the Iron Jaws. There wasn't a very big army, and that's kind of what Age of Sigmar is. Hey Tyler, peace out in the chat. Sorry if that clap was like ringing. I think I totally peaked my levels there. I gotta watch that, right? Yeah, so there's only 4 box sets, 4 or 5 box sets for the so there's basically 3 different types of units. You got these guys, the Gorgruntas, you got your Ard boys, and you got your brutes, your orc brutes. So that's like your rank and file, and they're generally all core, because why wouldn't they be? Then you got your mega boss, you've got your shaman, who's your weird knob. Weird knob? Is that what he's called? Then you got the guy with the rhythm sticks. Hit me, Ian Dury. Hit me with your rhythm sticks. What's he? The war chanter. And then you've got a mega boss on foot and a mega boss not on foot, mega boss on the Maw Crusher. And that's pretty much it for the army. And when it first came out, that was all there was. So in the Battle Force that they put out for their Christmas release, sort of, there was a giant in there. So that's why there's a giant in my army. And that Brian Nelson giant kit is amazing, and there's a new giant, the Mega Gargant's coming out, and I'm really excited to get my hands on one, and I hope I'll be able to paint one up possibly in November. I'm hoping. We'll see. I got a lot of Rogue Trader orcs to paint, but as you'll see in a minute, I'm making progress on them, and I'm pretty pleased with the how things are turning out in terms of attaining everything I need for the army. Right now, what I have finished is my hop splat gun is done. I've got about 8 or so boys painted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I got 11. I got almost a dozen boys painted. And I've got the war track, the las cannon, that's painted. And the hop splat. So yeah, so things are coming along, and a lot of this stuff was painted before we hit our ORKTOBER, but as you can see, what I'm trying to get done, the bulk of right now, and I'm going to take a break from doing this, and I'm probably going to paint the Commissar, because he's sitting over here, and he's itching for me to put some paint on him, but I also kind of want to do some custom banner stuff on him, and I think I'm going to put a grot on the back, because he should have a little runt banner bearer for him, because he is the Commissar, right? And he wants someone to be holding his banner high so that you know he's coming, right? So you better get out there and kill the gits, or else you're going to end up with twin-linked heavy bolters in the back of the head. Yeah. So, anything more on Iron Jaws I can sort of say? I love the models. I love the aesthetic of them. I love that they are like orcs turned up to 11. Right, and that's because they wound up in the realm of beasts, and because the realm of beasts is literally a predatory realm, and everything in it, including the land itself, is predatory. That the orcs just thrive in that environment, right? They can be orcs, and they're constantly fighting. And then what happens is that chaos shows up, Khorne shows up to like, I'm taking over the realms because I'm Khorne and it's what I do. And the orcs are just like, awesome, a scrap. And then there's like this eternal scrap going on during the Age of Chaos, prior to the Age of Sigmar, between the orcs and the forces of chaos, the bloodborne. What are they called? Bloodborne, bloodblades of chaos. The bloodblades of blood. Who was the guy that was in the box that came with the flesh hound? What were they? They were like blood chosen or whatever they are. They serve Khorne. They're red guys, and orcs love to kill other red guys. Well, my orcs are red, and again, that red that I did on them, you can see there on the mega boss, is a red that I developed that I continue to use to this day to do my red. So I'm actually using that exact process for creating that red on these orcs. So here, I'll hold up. I guess I can switch to the overhead now. There's the Trog boss. Oh, I love that model. I love that model so much. And the River Trolls, I dig them too. I'm really proud of this army. It's an army I would consider a showcase army. But so the red that I do here on that I'm doing on my blood axes as the accent sort of the flash color on them, is the exact same red. At least the way I painted it's the exact same process, which is Master Series Rust Red. I think it's called Rust Red. It's hard to see the label; it's so faded. With this is a it's called Mustard Yellow, and then I use Secret Weapon Wash, Red Black Wash, and basically this is this three, and then maybe a little tiny bit of like a bleach bone to lighten up the yellow, just for like spot highlighting and stuff. But you'll get to see that when I get to painting the red on my Space Orcs. And as that's a segue, let's just segue over here. And oh, what is this on the table? Oh, geez. Okay, so yeah, this is just some random. So these are 2 Bob Ollie Fanatics. I found these digging through a bits box this afternoon, and I threw them up on my table because I was like, I need to sort these because they were in a box that I didn't expect them to be in. And look at this guy. Look at this goblin. Now this is a very classic one. I believe he came from, I want to say he's part of Grom's Goblin Guard. If anyone out there knows that's watching, and this guy's Grom's Goblin Guard, let me know. And then this is a Orc Shaman. Great model. Who's going to find his way into my fantasy Orc army. I have another Orc Shaman as well, sculpted same time, so from the same release. So I'll, multiple Shamans. And then I've also got my big Shaman. And just because, since we're talking about Orc Shamans, I'll bring up the greatest Orc Shaman. So there's his ride. There's his saddle that fits like that over his ride. And there he is. And that will be something that I will paint, possibly for ORKTOBER next year. It may be, considering what I've sort of scheduled out to paint over the next little while on stream. This guy might be painted. I'm thinking ORKTOBER next year. ORKTOBER next year will be Orc with a C. And I will delve back into fantasy orcs. I took a picture earlier today because someone asked me to see on Trish Carden's Facebook page. She posted her work in progress. ORKTOBER 21 is planning. You know what? One thing orcs always do is they always plan ahead. They're always filling up their calendars and their itineraries, and they're making plans, because that is the orkiest thing to do. Clearly, I'm being facetious, and we just live in the moment. I'm living in the moment right now. And the moment is painting orcs. So yeah, so here's the last thing I'll show you. So this is my 6th edition orc war wyvern, and it's in pieces. It was painted for my 6th edition army, and it lived in my 6th edition army and led my 6th edition army for many a year. When I sort of moved from that to, and I'm talking about when I played competitively, when I was in the scene, and when I was poning noobs on the tournament circuit, never happened. This guy led my army, and then I eventually moved towards a more. This is a harness that I made out of some scale chain that actually wrapped around him, and I'll restore that too when I restore the model. It's got little bits hanging off it, like these pieces are off the Orc standard bearer sprue for the Orc Fantasy Regiment. This is off that same sprue, and there was something else. Oh, his horns have got things hanging off them as well, which is from the metal Orc standard bearer sprue, if you remember that, when they had metal regiment upgrade bits in the regiment boxes. So this guy led my army in 6th edition for quite a while. Well, not just the wyvern. There was a guy on top of him, and it was a stock model, so I didn't do any real conversions to it. I think I changed the head at one point, so that's to be restored. And maybe that's a project. Maybe next ORKTOBER will be Wyverntober, and I'll paint this wyvern and the other wyvern, and I'll paint riders for him and get him back in game shape. There's another couple of wyverns that I would love to get my hands on. There's the old Orc War Wyvern kit that was done for like second edition, and it was just the older version. Marauder did one, which is quite small. This is actually a Marauder one, but Marauder did a previous one, which was just an orc on a wyvern. That was quite this model is just fantastic. Look at that. So there's this saddle. Fantastic little saddle. And then look at this guy. I mean, come on. What a great model. And I think I have a duplicate of this rider because I bought a eBay lot that included one of these riders, but I bought it for the boar. Of all the things, it was a boar rider, and then this guy was there as well. It was just like randomly tossed into the lot, and I was like, okay, sure. So here we go. Let me tell you what I've been doing. I started doing some of this yesterday. So I put base coats on these guys. So I'll show you a base coated one that represents sort of so all the brown on it is Army Painter leather brown, his pouches and stuff. His pants, and if they have a shirt, which he doesn't, and a lot of these guys are kind of topless, but if there was a shirt, it would also, it may or may not be the same color, but he's got a big armored top up here. That's dirty gray there. How's the lighting looking? Anyone want to let me know if the lighting is decent? If it needs to, it could be a little bit brighter, a little bit lower. So yeah, so there's the orc. And so you can see I've blocked out a few colors. That's khaki. And then what I did was on a bunch of them, I washed them. So you can see this guy's had his shoulders washed. He hasn't had that parts washed. But I've washed that with black. That's actually contrast thinned out with contrast medium. The pants have been washed with a mix of blue and black Army Painter wash. And then I use soft tone on the strappings on his legs, and then a mix of dark tone and strong tone for the washing of the leather. And I'll show you some of these other guys. So I washed them. I generally do the flesh, and then I'll do the metallics. I tend to leave the metallics for last. What I'll do is I'll probably block out the flesh, then go in and do the metallics. Put on a brush-on sealer to seal the metallics, and then go back and finish the flesh and finish the whole model. So the black on here that's just black contrast thinned out with contrast medium over the gray primer, and the shoulder pads and stuff here is the same thing, thinned out black contrast over the dirty gray, and then I used a mix of dark tone and strong tone to wash the leather, and I did that. I've got how many models in front of me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I got 21 orcs in front of me that I am assembly lining my way through. So let's see where we're at. So like I said, I've prepared a bunch that are already washed, and the wash is cured on them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the washing on the 10 or so that I have left to do. I'm going to start with this guy because I missed the leather on his belt when I was washing the leather on his shoulder pads. So again, I'll show you how I make the mix, and it's just dark tone and strong tone. You can see it here. More strong tone than dark tone because the dark tone's pretty powerful, and we'll just darken it up a decent amount. So I'll put a little bit of strong tone, and then I'll put a couple of drops of dark tone, just like that. Just like that. Grab my trusty rusty brush, and you ready for the brush that I'm using? It's good old half a brush. One of my best brushes that's missing half of its bristles, or they've just been worn down here from abuse. Just abuse. My brushes, when I go to the art store or the friendly local gaming hobby store, and I buy my brushes, the brushes weep for those who must come home with me. The other brushes in the store go, no, don't take him. The sacrifice of the brushes. So looks like my analytics are telling me that there's 3 people concurrently viewing in the chat. Seems to be dropping a bit, so I think I might have to spice things up here a bit and figure out a way to increase my engagement. And what people are telling me is that really I should be streaming on Twitch. I want to stream on eBay. I want to stream on eBay. I do. Just auction off my stream. I want to stream on YouTube because my produced content will be stored on YouTube, and I'd rather have everything here. But what I know that a lot of people will do is they will stream to Twitch and then upload to YouTube. There's also a potential that I could stream to both at the same time. However, that probably I need to get multicaster, so that actually requires potentially hardware. It definitely requires more software. There is a piece of software that like would let me stream to like 30 platforms at once. I'm not sure what sort of bandwidth I would need to stream to 30 platforms at once. I didn't even realize that there were 30 platforms I could stream to, but apparently so. So you can see I'm just putting this wash on to the leather areas, paying mine to sort of add a bit more to the bottom so that when it settles, it's darker as it settles. And again, in mysterious places like in there where you can't really see what's what, just throw some paint and some dark wash in there. It'll help you see what it is, and you can always go back over it. Yeah, so there we go. So there's the leather on that guy. And when I'm assembly lining, this is generally the way that I will do it, is I will get models, I will block out colors, and then do a lot of washing, and the washing tends to be pretty similar. So you can see I'm doing a lot of dark washing, and that's for the leather. And I think that will help to define it. And sometimes the leather takes a few coats depending on how it cures over the army painter leather, because the army painter leather is pretty light, and sometimes the shadows sort of abandon you. And again, I'm not worrying about like, I actually want to put it around here because then I can create natural delineations between what will be his skin when it's painted and what is the wash. And you can see I didn't do anything on this shoulder pad. I'm not sure. It may just end up matching his armored underpants there. And I also didn't wash his boots. So there's always things that I've missed on the like this guy. There's always things that you miss when assembly lining, especially if you're doing a lot of models using the same sort of palette, and especially if you're doing what I did today, which was I sort of prepped some to some points and prepped others to not quite there, just so that I can show you, but then we don't have to wait for this to dry before I can go to the next step. And you can see I lay it on pretty thick because I want it to dry and look like really worn, weather-beaten leather. And you want to make sure that you get the wash into the right places. And again, everything's getting washed, so I'm not too concerned about it. I love this guy in his metal pants. He literally has bionic legs, so I'm assuming that he got his legs blown off at some point. And had enough teeth that he was able to go to the bad dock and get himself some metal legs. He probably had one of his buddies drag him over there in a wheelbarrow or something. Hey, people going on, let's see. For streaming on multiple platforms, you don't need much except for Streamlabs, OBS, or any OBS really. Well, I'm using OBS. I'm using the original OBS. I'm not sure how to get it to stream on multiple platforms. I did see some things, but when it gives me the option for my ingest server, it basically makes me choose. Now, it could be because I'm using the free version of the software and I haven't paid for this version of OBS. That may be something that unlocks on the version you have to pay. Oh hi, finally able to catch up on your stream live for a bit. Awesome, thanks Torben. I miss all my viewers. I miss you all, chat, so much. It's funny when I'm sitting here painting alone, like when I was prepping these guys, I was like, I should be saying something. And then I realized, oh, I don't need to be saying something because I'm not painting on stream right now. And it almost feels like I should just always be painting on stream. Even if I'm not saying anything and I'm just sitting here painting to get things ready for stream, I should just turn the stream on. Because why not, right? Get under there. I like this guy because his gun is like he's holding a little tiny revolver. And if you know anything about orc weapons, they just work. There's some great background lore in Wogged Orcs talking about like Imperial engineers, so Adeptus Mechanicus guys, taking apart an orc bolter and being completely baffled as to how it actually works, because they're like, there's like nuts and bolts that he's just like thrown in there, and then like they open it up and like all these springs pop out, and the springs weren't attached to anything. The orc had just stuffed all the springs inside the bolter, and the reason that it works is because orcs are incredibly psychically gifted, and it's their belief in the fact that my bolter works that means that their bolter works. So orcs are literally shooting mind bullets at you, and they sort of shied away from that. You can see like this guy. So this is the heavy bolter guy that comes in the Space Orc Raiders box set, and a guy I just washed here. This is basically the bolter version of him, and I have a third variant of this model that has a flamer. So again, it's just the way it was back in the day, man. When you're dealing with metal models, you alter your original maquettes and resculpt over the bodies because it'll save you time, and saving time is everything when you're a small miniature manufacturer trying to earn your way into the big leagues, which Games Workshop clearly did. They clearly earned their way into the big leagues. I saw a financial report talking about how they're one of like the safest, most secure investments in the UK right now, because they've managed to not only survive the pandemic but thrive during it. And that's even having their mail order and retail stores shut down for months. Their stock value is, they're considered a very, very valuable part of a portfolio right now. We can't, if I wanted to buy Games Workshop stock, I'd have to go through an international broker. So when I was a kid, I always thought it'd be cool to own Games Workshop stock after they went public. And they go public in 91. I say they went public in 91, like basically right before the defining editions of the game came out. I feel like it was 91 that they went public, and then there was a huge row. It may have been later. It may have been, I don't know. Someone tell me. So I stopped babbling about it. But yeah, I thought it'd be cool, and I looked into it and realized that I would have to buy through a stock exchange in the city in London in order to get my hands on some. But boy, do I wish I had bought some GW stock 30 years ago or 25 years ago, whenever they went public. I wish I had bought some stock then and just sat on it, because it would be it's doing really well. And kudos to the GW executive and management team, and kudos to the GW creative team, and kudos to Games Workshop in general for managing to grow into what you've become. And it's funny that I think like people talk about, everyone's always talking about Hasbro buying things up, and there's always been speculation that if Games Workshop ever got to a point where they were on Hasbro's radar, Hasbro would buy them, right? And they haven't yet, so I don't know if they're on, but I don't think Hasbro could afford Games Workshop now. Not to say that Hasbro doesn't have money just lying around in bank accounts around the world that they could just easily do it, but I don't think it's the kind of thing that they would look at as as something that they really need to add. It's always been that talk with Asmodee as well, right? Who's the other big game manufacturer out there. People have always talked about Asmodee, and Asmodee bought FFG, and FFG was huge when Asmodee bought FFG, right? And they did. When you say that they bought, the public spin on it is all that they merged, right? FFG and Asmodee merged. No, Asmodee bought FFG. Asmodee is a massive publisher of games, and so for them buying FFG was easy enough for them to justify. And mainly what they were buying from FFG was they were buying the fact that FFG had all these licenses for this property that Asmodee wanted. Licenses for things like Star Wars. They lost the license to Warhammer because of the Asmodee purchase, as far as I know. Okay, so here let me chat in the chat for a minute. If I get my 30 Orc Goblin painted this month, I'll be done with all I currently own. Yeah, that's not going to happen. My goal is to get my blood axes done, which is half of the Rogue Trader Orc army I'm building. The other half of the Rogue Trader Orc army I'm building is freebooters. Freebooter units of all shapes and sizes. The fun stuff, right? Like the really crazy, wacky stuff. And I was looking through the freebooters book the other day. By the other day, I mean yesterday, last night, while I was sitting down during reading time, because I sit down with reading time with my kid. My kid reads a book, and I read old rule books. But the Orcs and Mega Armor that I've got, I may, because of some of them and because of some other models that I might be able to get my hands on that are not necessarily Citadel models, but are sculpted by Kev Adams, part of the Space Raiders series that he did for Nightmare Miniatures. Sorry, I'm just trying to read chat while I'm trying to carry on my train of thought here. I'm going to do some straps on these guys. What was I saying? You totally made me lose my train of thought, Tyler and Inquisitor Zavak. You guys have thrown me off here. So, how about I read chat for a second? So I started a Danish stream as well, and now I know the woes of keeping up with a busy chat. Well, you're trying to paint as well, yeah. Well, and then also trying to paint, on chat. Like, when I'm painting on my off time, and by off time I mean when I'm not on stream and I'm painting. I try to keep as conscious of how the model is looking, so I will often turn on my camera and turn on OBS and watch myself as I'm painting, even when I'm not streaming, just so that I can train myself to paint on the red dot, right? So grab some more boys here that need their. And I do love that there are two types of orcs in this world: orcs who own boots, and orcs who tie their feet up with rags, straps. And that goes for fantasy as well. Orcs who wear shoes or boots or have armored whatever. What are armored boots called? I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue. What do you call a set of armored boots? Shit kickers? Hey, Jankmaster in the chat. Got that old shaman in the blister now? What? Old shaman in the blister? Which old shaman? The one I had? This guy? Yeah, this is a great shaman. I had the other one for years, and I acquired this one recently. And he's the one I like. Actually, I actually prefer him to the other one. Not that the other one's terrible, but this one is by far. He's got the best staff. It's got mushrooms all on the top of it. He's wearing a like wolf cloak, which is awesome. Got lots of teeth. He's totally orky shamany to me. And maybe you'll get to see me paint him next year. We'll see. 2020, my 2020 painting calendar is pretty full. I'm gonna throw a bit more soft tone down. Ah! So give Torben credit. He messes you up too. Everybody messes me up when I check the chat. Yeah. So I almost feel like I need to hire a minion to like monitor chat for me, or I need to just have someone in the chat. I don't know how to even make like people admins or anything. I think a lot of those tools don't actually open up until I get to 1,000 subs. And then there's a whole lot of I can basically at that point I can monetize the streams, and then there's a whole lot more tools that I can open up. And we can have like a club, like Champions Club, like Dr. Disrespect. What we'll call it the Chroniclers Club, or the Chroniclers Club. Yeah, Chroniclers Club. There we go. Unless you come up with a better name. But just remember, it's got to be cringy, because I'm all about the cringe on here. I have What little ego I have left doesn't really care about public perception that much anymore. You go through things in life and it sort of your priorities change. I love this model. I really like, and his little pointy helmet here is going to be red, and he's going to look like a gnome. I think when I finish painting that helmet, he's going to look like a gnome. He almost needs a beard. Noam Chomsky. Anyone watch the Troll Hunters cartoon, the Guillermo del Toro? They do, Logan. Hey, Logan's in the chat. So yeah, so a lot of these orcs were provided. In fact, most of the ones that I've already painted were provided by Logan there, Logan's Miniature Market. Check him out on the internets. So now I'm going to priorities turn into dad jokes. That's true. So I'm going to do some contrast black Templar and always pull out the contrast medium because I find that the secret to successful use of contrasts is the medium. Watched most of Troll Hunters with the kids and the follow-up was great. Yeah, my daughter and I didn't. We tried to watch the one with the alien kids and we couldn't get into it. And we started to watch the new one and then we stopped watching the new one for some reason. I don't know. I'm gonna go back and start watching it again because that's got like Merlin's Apprentice and stuff in it. I just really wanted sort of a resolution to the Troll Hunter story, and I loved the lore and the world that they built for the Troll Hunters, and I love how much of it sort of borrows from work that you can tell that Del Toro probably did for Hellboy 2, in terms of like creating the troll market and researching. That sort of that European folklore that the Troll Hunter, the mythos is based on. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm going in with the contrast and washing. This is right over the primer because these boots are going to be black because they are Panzorks. So these are their jack boots. So there we go. And then that's just to give them some big black motorcycle boots. Or orc boots. And again, there are two types of orcs in this world. Orcs who have footwear and orcs who strap their feet up. Like this guy, he's got straps and then he's like wearing like fur. And he's a squad leader, so like has nothing to do with wealth. It has nothing to do with wealth and power. It just has to do with personal choice. The orcs are like, I want boots. I'm going to save up my teeth. Go to the runt herd, get me some boots. Or I'll just wrap these rags around my legs and I'm comfortable. I think I would probably be a boot guy. If I was an orc, I'd be a boot-wearing orc. Okay, chat, there's your question. If you were an orc, would you wear boots or would you have your feet just wrapped up? And try not to apply your human sensibilities onto the decision. Try and weigh the pros and cons of boots versus rags. And this guy's got armored underpants. He's got his priorities here. A commissar coat and a cigar. That's one way of doing it, I guess. But would you wear boots? Dotaro says there will be a final 2-hour movie and then the entire thing is complete. Amazing. Can't wait. I will have to watch the Arcadia one. Was it Tales from Arcadia? Is that the new one? The one with the with Merlin's Apprentice, who reminds me of Noel from The Mighty Boosh. I don't know why. All right. Who's next? Oh, this guy. This guy and the other guy are like the same model. It's so weird when you're like painting one and then you go and you paint another one and you realize, oh, it's almost the exact same models. I don't have any duplicate models. I will, because sometimes to get what you need, you gotta. Oh, I don't even want to show you how embarrassed I am of that. But look, I got medium all the way up the bezel. Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm such a... My poor brushes. But such is life. That's life. That's life. Something, something Frank Sinatra. You're something in June and then you're something in another month. That's life. Any Sinatra fans out there? Boots, 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 boots. Boots, 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 boots. Painting with contrast is like... it reminds me of when I worked for Games Workshop the second time. Before the second time I was fired from Games Workshop. And we had to paint... we decided we were going to paint an Empire Army for the store. And so I was assigned to do the militia, which was the old human warband sprue from Mordheim. And so I had like a box of 20 militia, so I primed them white and then just painted them all with inks and washes, just completely head to toe. Even the swords I just washed with black. Like, it was so lazy. And then the manager comes in and he looks at him and he goes, "These are amazing! How did you get such amazing detail on them?" And I didn't want to tell him that I just washed them completely. He's like, "Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to do that kind of shading on them." And I'm like, "I'm not shading. I just washed over white primer." But I took my kudos, and soon after, I would be terminated from the company. But that's a story for another day. If you're going to die, die with your boots on. There you go. That is a good slogan to live by. I remember. Let's see if anyone else can remember this. And if you say you remember it, you better be telling the truth that you remember it. I can't even remember the artist's name now. Shit. He did a bunch of stuff for Vampire the Masquerade. I had a sketchbook of his too that was all like stuff that he did for Vampire the Masquerade. He would take photographs and then draw over them, and I'm trying to remember the artist's name. Can't remember his name. But anyways, he did in the Clan Bruja book, he did there was like a punk rocker guy, and he was wearing a pin that said "Die with your boots on," and I appreciated that. And I would love to get I would love to get one of those pins, because reasons. What do I need a reason to want to die with my boots on? So where are we at? So most of those guys are washed now, sort of. Like this guy needs his big shoulder pads. And like I said, I really like this model because he's got pants on, he's got his little armored loincloth, and then he's got his giant shoulder pads. And this is all flak armor, because back in those days, if an orc wasn't going to wear like mesh or carapace, he was either going to wear flak armor or he was going to wear power armor. And there was no mega armor for orcs. That didn't come into being until 2nd edition, when they released those Bad Moon mega armored guys. And I have mixed feelings on the 2nd edition Orc Codex. As much as I think 2nd edition was an amazing version of the game and really made the game what it is, the Orc Codex, after coming off the high of Here We Go, Freebooters, War of the Orcs, that was that 3-volume set of Orc rules for Rogue Trader, and then them cramming it all into a single codex, or a single 82 whatever page codex. There were some choices that they made that I didn't really like. Essentially, the clan boys ended up becoming specific types of squads that you would use within the army, and you would end up with an army that was really mixed. So you'd have like, well, here's my unit of Bad Moons, because I can give them all plasma guns, right? Here's my unit of Blood Axe Commandos. Here's my unit of Goth Boys. Here's my unit of, whatever. And the focus in 2nd edition, they always sort of focused in on one as the archetype, and that's still that way today. So like Goths are the archetype, right? With Eldar at the time of 2nd edition, it was Ulthwé was the archetype. They were the army that got the most glory and attention in the second edition Eldar Codex. So, cunningly brutal. It is cunningly brutal today. All orcs are cunningly brutal today. Brutally cunning orcs are all cunningly brutal. Attention, please. Attention, please. All orcs are now cunningly brutal. Just for today, because it is the day of the fist, and it is a day to be celebrated. And so I've got how I'm washing the gray on them. It's actually a Luftwaffe blue, so it's that Vallejo Luftwaffe blue, and I'm using a mix of dark tone and blue tone ink to wash it. So it makes it very blue. It'll be quite bright, but then when I go back over it to highlight it, I will take that Luftwaffe blue and blend it up, probably with a bone or the linen white that I have, just so that it lightens up a bit and is less blue, but I want to have the blue there in the shadows. And I also, because I'm doing so many grays, like these guys are really allotted, like the boots, because they're black, and I washed right over with the gray, and you'll see when it dries it'll look great. Let's see here. His are dry. So you can see his boots, and that's super easy to highlight after that. Like when I go back over to highlight these guys, which I will after I finish inking these guys, you'll see just how simple it is, and it's just using a couple of different base coats and then throwing in some different washes. And I might try some camo on some of these guys, because Blood Axes try to imitate and mimic the camo that they see on humans, but at the same time I am kind of doing them as like Panzork themed, so I kind of just want them to be in like early so World War II, early war era Germans, so like the Blitzkrieg Germans, so the uniforms that the Germans wore when they invaded France, right? Which would be different than the uniforms that they were wearing when on D-Day, right? They would be quite different. Different materials. If you ever do any research into that, which I've done because I was painting a German Heer army and a German SS army for Bolt Action. Oh, yeah, for Bolt Action, which is a Warlord Games World War II historical game, and it's written by the man, the legend, Rick Priestley, who wrote Rogue Trader. And it's a really anyways, it's all XGW guys. I'm not sure if Rick Priestley actually wrote Bolt Action. I feel like he didn't. I mean, I know he works for Warlord now because of other things that he does work on. I don't know. Someone tell me. I don't know why I actually assumed it was. Bolt Action has a really great game, and we played it quite a bit and always looked at Bolt Action, and I think my buddy Lorand he and another guy worked on doing a 40K conversion for Bolt Action. So converting 40K. Well, that's interesting. Because Bolt Action, the best way I can describe it, it's like the best version of 40K you could play, but you're both just playing Imperial Guard fighting each other. Second edition orcs were funny, random, snotling, shot inside a dreadnought, making it. See, you would say that's second edition, but all those rules are actually Rogue Trader rules. The shock attack gun rules, I believe, are in Here We Go. And that's the gun that basically would shoot orcs into, or they would shoot snotlings. And if you read the description for how it works, they'll take their big shock attack gun and they'll fire one snotling or one grot out. And this grot has been trained to carry a little red flag. And so all he does is he basically runs through the warp by himself and emerges out the other side with his flag and plants his flag down, right? And then once he plants his flag down, then the mech boy who's holding the shock attack gun can then move the portal wherever he wants, because he can see it. He basically like a little target, right? He paints the target with his thing, and then they send the rest of the Snotlings through. And in the Freebooters book, I think even regular Weird Boys can get it. Weird Boys can basically get warp touched Snotlings, so that if they fail a psychic test, or if something bad happens on their Edbangers chart, because Orc Psyker heads tend to explode a lot. Didn't know if you knew that. And so as a result, if he had a warp touch Snotling around, he could channel that warp energy into the Snotling, because the warp touch Snotling is the Snotling who had the flag and basically ran through the warp by himself to emerge out the other side, plant the flag. And sometimes when they're going through there, they see things that they're not supposed to see. I think they even talk about them like training them to like close their eyes while they're running, so they don't see everything that's around them. But warp touch Snotlings, and once this core of orcs, so basically once this core of my blood axes are done, and I get into doing the freebooter stuff, that's when I'm going to start. I want to basically as much of the crazy stuff as I can possibly do. Squig-brained orcs, so I need a bad doc, so I can take squig-brained orcs. Looted Imperial robots, which I'm going to do. It's going to be great. And all that sort of good time stuff, right? So, done kind of on the washing here for now. So what I'll do is that the models that I did wash, where the wash is now all cured, I will we'll start next step in some of this stuff. So I'm not going to stand on ceremony. This is the brush I'm about to use. It's one of my best brushes. I love this brush. Do you have that awesome warp head? No, the one that's like marching forward? No, I don't have that awesome warp head. I actually don't have any Weird Boys. I have... No, I don't have a Weird Boy model. I was gonna use this guy as a Weird Boy. I was thinking about it. In the Book of the Astronomicon, they the Orc Shaman in that Orc Army list, the picture is this model. I don't own... the cool thing about Minders is that you don't just have to buy Minders for Weird Boys. You can buy Minders for anyone. A Minder is basically just the Orc word for bodyguard, right? So you can buy Minders, and they're like sub-knobs. They're basically not quite knobs, but they're tougher than regular orcs, and they're meaner than regular orcs, because they're paid to... So you can actually buy like mercenary Minders. And I thought about doing that. And if you look at the actual models that say Minder on their tab, they're a little bit bigger and a little bit chunkier than the other ones. They'd actually make decent, like generic knobs almost, if you're willing to go that way. So I got this brush, and you're like, what is he going to do with that brush? Well, I'm going to do their clothing that I talked to you about, because, like I said, I'm not one to stand on ceremony, and I am not one to not dry brush. I'm just going to grab a little piece of plastic card here, because I want to keep some of the moisture. Close up my wet palette there. Put this on top. Let us find... Actually, we'll just move that completely, because otherwise it's going to slide around. Get some paper towel, because I'm going to be doing some dry brushing here, people. And there it is. Luftwaffe uniform. So I'm going to drop a little bit of it onto my plastic card palette here. And I'm going to grab some of my linen white that I said that's probably what I would be using to highlight it with. And we'll throw a little bit down here. Don't need a lot, because the white is just there to lighten up the other stuff a bit. So where did that other brush go? It went there. So here's another fantastic brush. And I use these for dry brushing. These are really old. So this is an old number 4 Series 7. And you can see I've abused the hell out of it. And this is an old Series 7 number 3. And as you can see, I've abused the hell out of it. They become dry brushes. So I'm going to get some brush on here, some paint on my brush. Grab just a tiny bit of that. It's almost too much, so we add a bit more of this. I can't mix it while I'm looking at the monitor, but I can mix it while I look at it with my real eyes. And then over here on my paper towel, I'm going to brush most of it off, and you'll see how much of a gradient I want. And then I'm just going to pick up one of these orcs and I'm going to spin them around, and I'm going to look at pants here, and I'm going to dry brush them. Look at this. Look at me go. I'm dry brushing. Feather touch, the lightest touch possible. You're just sort of flicking the brush across the surface. You should generally go in a single direction and not go up and down. I tend to go down like this because you want to pick up paint on the higher, more elevated parts. And around like that. And then top it off like that, so you can see, hopefully you can see, that leg is now dry brush, and I'm going to go over and do this one. Same sort of thing, get a little bit of my linen, add in, and remove it, and then I'm going to go around here, and you can see I'm just catching the bottom. It almost looks like it's like a sliced. That actually might be a cool idea. You know what? I might do something with that. I might paint that a different color, because you can see it's like a puffy shirt, right? What do they call that? Slashed, or what's the fashion that the Landsknechts or whatever, the great swordsmen in their fancy frilly shirts would wear? What's the story with tin boys? So you look at Tyler able to. Tin boys are robots that the orcs build. Mech boys build them. And then mech boys have to control them. And if you have a copy of the compendium, the red book for Rogue Trader, it has the rules on how you program robots. And you basically have to build a program. And you pay points for the more complex the program you build for them, the more points you end up having to pay. So there's a simple like engage and destroy program, which I think has like 10 potential outcomes on it. And it's all just yes or no questions. It's all just binary. Like, are the enemy in range? Yes, charge and fight. Are the enemy not in range? No, advance to charge and advance closer, right? Sort of thing. And you just have to build these programs for them, which is, you know, really cool. And there's another one that's called like take and hold. So it's for taking objectives. Right, and you have to designate what the objective is, and then there's like 20 options as you go down this little program of like, are there enemy near you? Are you closer to the objective than the enemy? Yes, no, like all these decisions you have to make as your program goes through. And you have to issue them orders 2 turns ahead of time. So whatever I want them to do on turn 3, I need to tell them on turn 2. And that is the joy of playing Rogue Trader, is that there are rules there that are there for not necessarily to make the game more playable, but to make the game more immersive and more random and narrative, really. So here we go. Just dry brushing these legs here. Dry brush these legs here, and again, because of where the folds are in the pants, I'm just flicking the bean right across there. Down like that. And as long as you have a decent amount of brush control and know how to be gentle, I think one of the things that makes dry brushing look messy is that people aren't gentle when they dry brush. They push, and you have to be patient with dry brushing. So I will sit here and I will go back and forth like this several times and slowly watch the highlight appear and not try and force it to appear. Just let it go, right? And then I think and then you add just a little bit lighter. You'll see got a little bit of a paint dingleberry growing on the end of my dry brush there. There we go. Get the knee over here, and now I'm going to move up to his hat. So again, I'm going to mix up with the linen a little bit. Most of it's coming off. You'll see what my my paper towel looks like now. And then I'm just going to go straight down to do his hat. All right, making sure that I catch the little folds and the ridges. And again, it's just about having a gentle touch and making sure that you're not going from one layer of highlights to another too quickly, right? You don't want to, I wouldn't want to go with a lot more of the linen until this has been put down, and then I will go back over it with adding more of the linen in to pick out some of those high points that we like to nail when we're highlighting, right? So like the tip of the cap here, around the back of the brim here, because this guy's. But if you see what it looks like the front of his cap, you can see that there's like a little bit of a shadow there because there's a little bit of a fold, and that is that. So there's another one. So we'll grab this guy here. This guy is his tab says squad leader, and he was the squad leader for the Space Orc Raider box set. So squad leader would be like the champion. So this guy would be the champion. And there's another guy that was like the underboss on the knob. And that's one thing I liked about those old Regiments of Renown boxes, was that your characters on the back, your like special guys who weren't your rank and file, all got a little bit of attention, and they all got names. And then if you go and you look in the Rogue Trader book and you look at the Rin's World stuff, Battle at the Farm, which is the classic Rogue Trader matchup, and one day I will shoot a Battle at the Farm for content. Alex and I were discussing earlier today some of the narrative things we'd like to do with the Logan's World campaign, and I said, "Oh, wait till you read my script, because I'm writing a script for it, because that's the kind of narrative." When he was asking me like, "Well, what do you think we should be doing?" I appreciate that you knew exactly which mini I was talking about. The awesome Warp Head. Well, he's the Warp Head model, yeah. I would love to get my hands on the Blood Axe Weird Boy, but he seems to be the one that I've never seen him on eBay. I've never seen him come up in any of the trading groups. Plenty of Snakebite Weird Boys, plenty of Bad Moon and Goff Weird Boys, but the Blood Axe Weird Boy has thus far eluded me. One day. I'm in, this is an army that's probably, I didn't really have, the only models I had for it previous to this were all the stuff that I'm going to do for freebooters. These one-piece orcs I newly acquired mostly this year. I had the Tin Boys, I had the Goff Rockers, because I acquired those models, and I had the characters. So I had this guy, the Commissar. I had him in a box with some other orcs, the armless plastic orcs. But these are the guys I decided I actually wanted to make an army of, because they're just cool, and they do work within the Blood Axe idea, like the Blood Axe aesthetic. So moving on. Painting more of these Panzorks in their uniforms. And again, I can go on after this if I choose, and I would add some camouflage and then dry brush them again to finish them off. But I'm kind of liking this like blue-gray, this Luftwaffe blue. It's a nice color. And I think that with the with sort of that orangey red that I do, that came from my Iron Jaws, my new red, as opposed to my old red, which was a lot more crimson gore. If you guys remember that old Citadel color, crimson gore, that used to be like my base for my reds. And previous to that, I used to use terracotta with chestnut ink, and then highlight it up with like crimson gore and stuff. But that was the old way I used to do red back in the days. I have some photos, which I think the photos are on my website and Nico will get the joke, because he's the one who mocked me relentlessly for it. But I painted up some warp spiders back in 2nd edition 40k, and I painted them with terracotta, and I hadn't really developed my red yet. I hadn't figured out how to get the real richness of the red in there. So they were kind of terracotta and then washed and then highlighted back up with like terracotta. So they basically looked like they were terracotta warriors. So he used to call them my terracotta warp spiders. Which was totally fair because the color they were primarily painted with was terracotta. So, and terracotta is one of those words that the more you say it, the less normal it starts to sound. It starts to sound weird. Terracotta, 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 terracotta. So you can see what I'm just doing. I'm just like a free ball, man. I'm free balling when I'm dry brushing here. I'm grabbing blue or the gray or the thing, and just eyeballing what and using my experience of how much do I think is on the brush and how much is going to rub off on the model when I get around to painting him. So you can see his back there is pretty good. So I'll grab a little bit more here. So this has got a bit more of the linen in it, and I'm just going to hit the back one more time because that's the part that you would see the most lighting up of, so I want it highlighted a little bit higher. So there we go. This guy doesn't have any on him because he's got robot legs. Robot legs, robot legs. All the kids love the robot legs. So what's the story with Tim Boy? So yeah, so that's and the reason that the orcs make them in the image of their enemies is because they think it's funny to make their enemies fight themselves. So they're like, ha ha ha, I made that robot look like a space marine, and it's really funny that space marines don't have to fight space marines. Of course, not knowing the sad, tragic history of the Horus Heresy. I'm sure the orcs have many extensive libraries and records detailing the tragic events of human history. But so they thought it was funny. So that's why there's an Eldar one. That's why there's a squat one, and that's why there's a Marine one. But they often just make them in like mocking visages of their enemies because they're robots, and that means that they're probably not as low as a Runt or a Grot or a Gretchen, but they're still pretty far down there because orcs are, if anything, a hierarchical meritocracy, right? And it just so happens that goblins can never have any merit, or grots will never have any merit, right? Someone asked me, I think it was Jankmaster, asked me how I painted the tear drop. So I painted the teardrop actually off stream. And there it is there. It's not, I think what it actually probably needs is a wash with some blue of some kind. I tried to make it look translucent. I don't think it really came. From afar, it just looks like he's got a big wart on his face. So I'll go back and fix that at some point. Doesn't have to be today, that's for sure. Paint the pants, and this is another one of what this guy is he's one of the original Space Orc Raiders, and there were 4 different models for that, and then there were some variants that were released separately on their own. But in the Space Orc Raider box, you got 8 or 10 random mix of these 4 sculpts. So you would end up with at least 1 of each, but generally 2 of each, and then 3 of 1 or 2 of them, depending on whoever packed your box at the warehouse. So there we go. So I've realized I gotta wash his leather on him, but there his pants dry brushed. Let's throw a little bit more. So I just washed my dry brush, which means that I'm done with it. One way that I keep my dry brushes decent is I will use, I'll use a brush soap. Brush soap. So this is the Master's brush cleaner. And you can see this one's well used because the bottom is exposed now, but just kind of spinning it around and just to help loosen up any pigment that's still stuck on the brush. And then rinsing it off. Drawing it off, and then letting it dry, and I'll be able to use it again in like a few hours or so. So let's let's move from working on the trousers, and maybe I'll do some of the leather. So leather is pretty easy. As you saw, it was based with Army Painter leather brown. There are other leathers that I like to use. I find that this one's the quickest and the dirtiest. So you can see I've already got some here that I was using earlier. And then my highlighting color for that is skeleton bone. So I'll drop some skeleton bone beside it, and then I'll do... And oftentimes I'll look at this as an opportunity to also fix things up. So I'll actually take some strong tone and I'm going to add it to here. Because I find that I won't add the dark tone back in, but I'll put the strong tone when I go over certain areas. If I realize that it probably needs a bit more, like this guy I didn't even do on the back there, so I'll have to hit those. It was better just to do it with just the strong tone at this point. The dark tone can almost be too potent, so we'll stir this up a little bit just to get it. And again, we're slapping it on here, and I realize that there's another leather strap that goes that's holding his thing on there, so I'll have to hit that. I'll have to get some in there, and I'll do that with a smaller brush at some point. I might just do it now. Yeah. And then checking the rest of these guys. So you can see, like, some places like here you might want to add a little bit more shadow because those we want them to stand out better. Here on his back, I kind of want there. So I'll have to let these cure again. So some of this went on a little too thin, but I find that in general the wash works. It just depends on how much everything around it. Once you see it all together, you see, okay, well, some of this could be probably darkened up a little bit. And instead of going back over with the dark and strong tone, I just go back over with just the strong tone, so that it's again, you're giving yourself a little bit more. What do you call it? Contrast, something like that. You can see I'm just sort of pulling that up and helping to add in a little bit more shadow where shadow may be absent. Didn't quite take the first time, didn't settle and cure exactly where I wanted it, because wash can often be have a mind of its own, and you don't see it until it's actually dry that you go, oh, I thought I got the wash on there exactly the way that it needed to sit. And one of the things about washes that I do find is that's one of the reasons why I like Army Painter, is that it does tend to sit where you want to put it, right? You put it where the brush is, and it will pool and collect where you want it a little bit better than some other washes. But I also really like the GW washes because they're flatter. And I know I mentioned this on stream before that Army Painter, I think, started adding a little bit of a gloss to their washes, so that it matched the lacquer dips that they make a little bit better. So yeah, just gonna get in here again. So you can see I'm actually just washing over these guys again because I realized it went on and it didn't dry quite as dark as I like it. And sometimes a good wash needs 2 coats, needs 2 layers to really help you define lines and stuff. So, and again, the more contrast you can provide in the shading and the highlighting, the more details on your models are going to stand out, and the more natural it's going to look. Like here, I'm just doing underneath. I'm just doing the under part of the elbow pad and not the top, because the way that it's bent and sitting out, I want it to, I don't know. I'm getting quiet now. Maybe I need some water. But are Super Gretchen worth more than a Tin Boy? No. Super Gretchen are, I think it's runt herders. Renegade runt herders can get Super Gretchen in the Freebooters book. Yeah, and they're not. I mean, they're still Gretchen. They're not very good. It's the super snotlings that I like. And I like the fact that you can get snotling spore weapons, which adds d6 to their strength in close combat, which I think is hilarious and fantastic. You can see back here, just getting all these little bits that are leatherish. I love this one. I don't know why. This is one of my favorite orcs, because I just love that he's in sullen, he's contemplating all the possible ways that he can crump a git. Speaking of being brutally cunning. If he was normally a brutally cunning orc. Not today. Today all orcs are cunningly brutal. A little bit more back here. Up around here. So today is the day of watching me wash, I'm guessing. How about you? Yeah, we want a little bit more wash there. And again, when you go in and add the details, like when I go and I put the buttons on these pouches and stuff, they'll get washed again, probably with black. Building up all those layers of wash, you know, and understanding where you want to put that wash and hoping that it sits where you want it. Like here, I'm gonna wash just the bottom half of the shoulder pad again, leaving the top half alone, because when that dries, that'll give me a nice natural shadow. And get into places where, you know, you can't see like his armpit, and just wash around in there. Because when I go to put the green over top of it, then I don't have to worry about going all the way, and I just have to go to basically where the wash ends and begins, right? Call that. Do his legs here, why not? Just around there. His holster. I think I'm gonna do this guy's shoulder pads again, just because he is also one of the few that I actually did brown, like the leather brown shoulder pads on. Most of them are gray. A couple of them I did different. I like to break it up like that, especially if I've got duplicates. But by duplicates I mean like these two models are essentially based on the same maquette. So I did this guy's shoulders gray and this guy's shoulders brown, and that's just hobby ADD, really. So there we go, a little bit more brown wash over the shoulder pads there. And we'll just go in and grab these in here as well. So I probably won't be painting the leather today, or if I will, I'll do some tonight, and I'll leave some to show you guys mañana, just because I am washing it all again, I've now decided. I can obviously go in and do the leggings on them, though. We'll do that. We'll do that on stream today, and that's just more dry brushing. Today's the day of washes and dry brushes. Once I get to the skin and the weapons and stuff, then we're finishing these guys, and once these guys are finished, then I think the first character I'm going to paint will be the Commissar. And he'll be quite different. He's going to be all in blacks and reds. He saw some Imperial Commissars, thought they were really cool. And he's a treacherous git, just like a Commissar is. Shoot you in the back kind of guy. So he has emulated the Commissars and decided that the best way for him to be a Commissar is, of course, to be able to get around the battlefield where he's needed, where his attention is most required. And that's why he's got a guy with a buggy that drives him around, and he makes sure that the orcs are all doing their job. And if they're not, he ain't afraid to cap a fool, you know. I realize this guy's pants aren't done, so I'm just gonna wash them right now. And again, that's the advantage of having a wet palette, and the advantage of painting with washes mixed out on your palette is that you can wash a big batch, and then you can keep it around for when you need to do exactly what I'm doing, which is just washing this guy's pants that I overlooked the first pass through. So I hope you guys are painting orcs in ORKTOBER, and failing that, I hope you guys are painting old Warhammer, whether it's old Warhammer 40k or old Warhammer Fantasy. Yeah. There we go. Leave those to dry. Oh, and I got another one here. Look at this guy. Thinking he can get away with not getting his pants washed. Make sure you get around the where the pants are tucked into. Well, not the boots in this case, but they're tucked into the straps now, the scraps. And his hat. Gotta get his little hat. I mean, if that's not a Blood Axe hat, I don't know what is. That's why I really like these older, more generic pre-clan single piece orcs. That's why I think I actually prefer them to the later ones. There's a lot of character in them, and they're single piece metal, which means I never have to worry about arms breaking off or not having enough arms. Like right now I have a concern that with the amount of second edition orcs that I have, and I have plans for them, basically making a Flash Gits unit, making some freebooters, making some renegade guys and stuff, whether or not I have enough arms for them. And I know that you can order like resin cast and like 3D printed arms, but I'd like to keep it as close to as possible. Like I said, I'm not staying truly historically accurate with this army. There will be some updates and some modern interpretations added to some of it. Okay. So there we go. So where are we at? It's almost 1:30. Oh, and I'm starting to sweat because it's warm in here, man, sitting under these lights. We've had remarkably nice weather. It looked like it was fall. It's definitely looks like fall outside right now, but it's warm everywhere else. So we're having nice days, beautiful days. So yeah. So let's go back. Oh, and look at that, perfect timing to see the Mega Boss on the Maw Crusher. And then I have 6 of these guys, so I have 2 units of 3 of the Gorgruntas, and I love them as well. They're like Boar Boys turned to max. And there's Grandma Saggins with her sloppy floppers or floppy sloppers. She's a gorgeous model, beautiful model to paint, sculpted by Trish Carden. And there's the Mega Boss. So he was the first Mega Boss in my army, and then I painted the Maw Crusher after. And this is the guy I used the Trog Boss. He is the Dankhold Trogoth, and I use him as a Dankhold Trog Boss. And I really like the way that I painted him. Actually, looking at him, there's things I want to go back and do. I want to create some discolorations in his skin and stuff. So he may be a model that not now, maybe next year sometime, I might go back and do some washes on and stuff, and a little bit more work to try and create some variants, because his skin is all very much the same color. And there's my Giant. I'm really happy with the way his flesh came out. His flesh actually came out so nicely that I originally had a plan that I was gonna like scuff him up and make him look dirty and ratty, and he's a giant hobo, right? But after I finished painting his flesh, I was like, it came out so nice. And if you see it IRL, it's a really nice, the way that the flesh came out in terms of the shading. When the photo comes around again, whatever. So I really liked the way it came out. So I did some tattoos on it, which are just decals, and left it at that and said, you know what, he just had a bath. So we're back to the myth, the legend, and the Maw Crusher boss. Mega Knob on Maw Crusher. I replaced one of his weapons with a hammer, which was a magic item from one of the realms. Like Age of Sigmar it's a game that I'm not really 100% caught up on right now, because it has been a lot of changes. And they did change the Ironjaw's army, and they put them into the war clans, the Orc war clans, so you can mix them with Bone Splitters. And I've never been a Savage Orc fan. The only Savage Orc unit I ever finished for my Orc army was I had a unit of 6 Savage Orc Boar Boys, the metal ones with the plastic boars that came out in 6th edition. I had a unit of those that were painted up for my 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Army. And I never really did any other Savage Orcs. Never had the inclination, never had the great desire to. I just like different kinds of orcs, right? The new Goblin Wolf Riders are the best of all the AOS era greenskin minis. Disagree, but that's cool. There's my giant again. You can see the flesh on him. And that flesh was achieved with the Triad, with the Reaper Triad, and I didn't use any washes, so that's why it's so smooth, and so it was all just, I put down the golden base, and then I just highlighted up from that. No washes or anything. And that's why it came out quite nice. I'm quite happy with that. I'm quite proud of this whole army. I love these brute boys. And I've got 2 brute bosses, one of which I use as a big brute boss. Love the army, all that good stuff. So we're closing in on 1:30 here, so I'll probably cut the stream at 1:30. Generally got things to do, gotta take care of some stuff, and hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me wash and dry brush today. It's going to get more exciting as we descend further into October, though, because I do want to paint things like the Commissar here. I really want to paint him, and I think I'm actually going to add... I had an idea the other day for adding a grot on the back of it here that's going to be holding his personal banner, because he should have a banner, because he's a pretty important knob, you know. He's a pretty important guy down at the Cracker Factory. So he definitely will require some more creative work. And then I've also got, let's go back to the overhead here. I've got this guy who I primed, and then he fell off my priming bar. Remember my priming bar that I was so proud of? He fell off it right after I finished priming him, because like I said, heavier models on that double-sided carpet tape, you got to be really careful not to invert them. Whereas if they were plastic guys on there, I could flip the whole thing upside down and spray them upside down and get perfect coverage. On these guys, you can't really see it, but the coverage, there's a little bit of bare metal showing through it, but that's fine. You throw on some base coats and some washes over that, and it's all good. But you can see that there's some bare metal here where he hit the ground, and he actually landed in a pile of leaves, because it's fall, and there's leaves on the ground. So he landed in a pile of leaves, and I had to fish him out, swearing the entire time that I was doing it too. Cussing like a sailor. So some other cool stuff to come on the channel as we descend further into October. This is a 2nd edition heavy stubber, but I'm gonna use it as an autocannon because I put it on this Rogue Trader heavy weapon trooper. Cut it down and put it on here. He used to have a plasma cannon, but I kind of like this, and I already have like 3 guys with plasma cannons because plasma cannons are great. And obviously, those plasma cannons would have been acquired from a guy who I'm probably not going to paint in October, because I'm not that kind of a sacrilegious human being that I would do such a thing. But probably very early in November, I'm going to paint this guy, because I really want to paint Inquisitor Dosadi here, because the entire reason that these orcs, these Blood Axe orcs, are on Logan's World is because of Dosadi. It's his fault that they're there. And so the freebooters were going to be the other orcs that are sort of, you know, wherever. They get trapped on the planet or have built little empires for themselves on Logan's World. So that'll be my other orcs. And whether or not those 2 orcs will fight each other, because that'd be awesome too. Orcs fighting orcs, it's only natural. And I have some other surprises and stuff. And I think once we get into doing Logan's World, which means I'm putting you on notice now. I know you say that you've got your stuff ready. Get ready, buddy. We have to start making some content for it then, if we're ready. So yeah. So there we go. It's 1:30. I'm going to call it a day and go and take care of the things that I got to take care of. And I will be back mañana, tomorrow, for ORKTOBER Day Lots. Because at this point, we're past 5. And the orcs can't count past 5, so why should I, right? So tomorrow will be Day Lots. Today is Day of the Fist, because it's the day after the last day that they can count to. And Mork made that fist and nailed Gork with it, good and strong, and knocked him out. And therefore, all orcs were. Look at that. Look at that pimple, that zit on the end of her nose, that giant boobos. Lovely. I love that model. That model was such a joy to paint. Thank you, Trish Carden, for sculpting troll hag, because she's massive too. She's like a big old ball of resin. Great model, and her rules in Age of Sigmar are absolutely insane. I believe that you can go and watch a battle report on Ash's channel, an Age of Sigmar battle report that he did, where I took all my trogs. I took my trogs and squigs, basically what I had painted for the Gloomspite Gitz army. Because somehow in Age of Sigmar, I just ended up doing destruction. I just ended up doing orcs and goblins again. I tried to avoid it. I had big plans, man. I was going to do Chaos guys. And then what was I going to do? Something else that wasn't orcs I thought about. And then I just wound up doing orcs because they're awesome. And then there you can see my my Ard Boys, which are the only kit that made it from Warhammer Fantasy Battle into the Iron Jaws list. Everything else was made purpose for AOS, because you couldn't get these guys to rank up. Definitely not. So yeah. So that's it. It's Christian signing off for the Eternal Chronicles, and I will see you guys on the flippity floppity side. Peace out, brosteins.